Hey guys, how are you doing this morning? I hope you're having your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe something harder, as always say. Today's going to be an interesting one. I was reading an article over at Petapixel, and I want to read some of it to you and do a little bit of commentary on it because I think it's really important. And it shows that innovation isn't dead as of yet. But anyways, before I get into it, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go check them out over at JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. 10 tips of making tack sharp images, as well as the prologue to that book, How to Create a Digital Fort Knox, Backing Up Your Digital Life. Anyways, guys, JCristina.com/books. So today we're going to be talking about Sony and a brand new sensor that they're working on. And it's supposedly going to be groundbreaking, revolutionary, let's call it. And what it's supposed to do is gather twice as much light. Now you could say gather light or maybe lower, maybe SNR, signal to noise ratio, however you want to look at it. Basically, better signal, less noise. This is what we're doing. And the way they're doing it is very interesting. So I want to read some of this article to you, and then I want to kind of talk to you about it because I do think that this is big. It's big on multiple levels. Not only will it revolutionize cameras as we know it today, but also, more importantly, the small sensor cameras like we see in smartphones. And that could be both positive and negative. And we're going to get to that just a second. So anyways, this article starts out by saying Sony's semiconductor division has announced that it has successfully developed the world's first stacked CMOS image sensor technology with 2-layer transistor pixels that grant double the light gathering capability. We'll get into that in just a second. Sony explains that typical image sensors place photodiodes and pixel transistors on the same substrate. Sony explains that typical image sensors place photodiodes and pixel transistors on the same substrate, but in the new design, it was able to separate them onto different substrates. So different levels, different substrates. That is amazing. And obviously, this is what will double the amount of its capacity per photodiode. And I'll show you that in just a second. The result is a sensor that approximately doubles the saturation signal level, basically its light gathering capacity or capability, which dramatically improves the dynamic range and reduces noise. So when you see saturation signal level, let's just call it SNR, your signal to noise ratio. If you're into audio, you understand what that is. The more, let's say, good signal you have and less noise, the better the output is. Doesn't matter if it's audio or video. SNR, signal to noise ratio. They continue by saying saturation signal level isn't directly a sensor's light gathering capability, like I just said, but it is a major gate factor that influences how accurately a sensor is able to interpret the light information in dim environments. Once again, SNR. For the sake of basic explanation, double the light gathering ability is the end result of this advancement. Now, if you take a look at this image, this is very telling. This shows exactly what is going on here. Now, in an old unit, you would see you have a photodiode and you have the pixel transistor, and they're both on the same plane, on the same substrate, the same level. Whereas the new one, you'll see the photodiode and then you have a pixel transistor right underneath it. And as you can tell, the photodiode is now twice the size, and also the pixel transistor is twice the size. This is what is so important. So not only you're going to have a larger photodiode, number one, but then you'll also have a doubling of the size of the pixel transistor. That's where all of that information is gathered and sent straight through the circuit. Very, very important. So this is major. This is really big. Now they continue by saying Sony's new architecture is an advancement in stacked CMOS image sensor technology that separates the photodiodes and pixel transistors onto separate substrates that are stacked on top of each other rather than side by side. So like I said, this is now a doubling of the photodiode and a doubling of that pixel transistor. So ultimately what this will provide is a doubling of the saturation signal level, as they call it, or I'll just say SNR, just to make it easy, signal to noise ratio, and it will provide a widening or a much wider dynamic range. And this is what we've been looking for. In the past, we've always been talking about how many megapixels. Oh, they have 40. Well, this one has 42. It was a race to the top. Who would be able to provide more megapixels? But what very few people were discussing at the time, I wasn't one of those people, was the SNR, or how good are those pixels? Just because there is 50 on one camera and 24 on another, that doesn't mean that the 50 megapixels is going to create a better image, because in some cases it will not. As I always tell you guys, big pixels are better than small pixels when all else is equal. They continue by saying by doubling that pixel transistor area, they're able to reduce the amount of noise that you would get, let's say, doing nighttime photography or any kind of dark location imagery. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to end up with less noise, period. Once again, better SNR. Now, due to the fact that the pixel transistor area as well as the photodiode has doubled in its size, that not necessarily means that we're going to get a doubling better, let's say, SNR, signal to noise ratio, but it will be better. Now, they finalized by saying the result for photography means wider dynamic range or better exposure in photos with harsh backlighting or in dim settings, and lower noise in photos that are taken in dark environments. Sony specifically notes that this technology is going to make for increasingly higher quality imaging in the case of smartphone photography. Remember that. The new technology's pixel structure will enable pixels to maintain or improve their existing properties at not only current, but also smaller pixel sizes. So let's get into this idea of smartphone photography. Remember, we've talked about this in the past, that we do believe, many of us do, including myself, that smartphones have been the catalyst for a lot of point and shoots to go the way of the dinosaur, the way of the dodo bird, right? And this has been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. We see many manufacturers not even making point and shoots anymore, and they're putting all that R&D and all of the money into bigger cameras, bigger sensor cameras. Okay. We even see micro four thirds camera companies like Olympus kind of went belly up, having to sell out to OMD now, they call it. What's going on with them? I don't know. They'll probably be around for another year or two and then call it. People don't want smaller sensors. In their mind, they want larger sensors. And why is that? Not for more megapixels, but for better SNR. Not that they know it or not, but it is for better SNR. They want to get better images in low light. And that is where the trajectory of the imaging market has been for the last 4 or 5 years now. It's all about getting good images in low light. And it's all about video. We talk about that all the time. Cameras are not only judged by what kind of images they can take, but what kind of video they can record. And this has been like this once again for quite some time. And that's why we've seen the demise of the point and shoot. There's not many left out there, right? So this is very, very interesting. And I mean, kudos to Sony for coming up with this kind of stuff. When is it going to, let's say, go into full production mainstream? I don't think we're going to see it in like an alpha series anytime really soon. But what I do see is them putting this into or selling these sensors to smartphone manufacturers. It just makes sense. Think about this. Having the same size sensor in your small smartphone and gathering, let's say, twice the light. Or let's not call it gathering twice the light, but being able to get twice as good SNR, signal to noise ratio. And now you accompany that with some amazing computational photography, hidden little things going on in the background with all of these crazy algorithms, and you end up with images that are going to look better coming out of a phone than on many cameras. That's what's happening, guys. That is it. That is the future. Now, I look at this and I'm thinking to myself, all right, so we see Sony's going to be doing this. We're now taking the actual image sensor and doing, not only we're doing multi-layers, but we're doing a multi-substrate. and now getting double the amount of information, let's say, the double amount of computational stuff going on that secondary layer, and the double amount of the light, okay? The photo sensor itself, the photodiode, twice the size, because the photodiode doesn't need to share space, half of its space, with that photo transistor. Super, super cool. So I love this article. I think that it's great. I'm so glad that Petapixel wrote this article and put this out here, because I think it is good fodder for conversation. And I think that it gives us a little bit time for pause and say, well, where is the market going? Where is the photographic market going? And if we just kind of read the tea leaves, so to speak, I think by looking at it, we can see that the photographic market is kind of dying on the vine. But what's going to happen is we're going to change our thought process on the photographic market. And once again, we're going to look towards better light, better or lower SNR, better signal to noise ratio. We're not going to be looking at the pixels, at how many pixels. Oh, this has 50, this has 100 pixels. Yeah, but who cares if you have 100 megapixels if they're crap pixels? It doesn't matter. I'll take 50 all day long. Nice big chunky pixels. That's one of the reasons why we see medium format cameras. Doesn't matter if it is film or if it is digital. They just take better pictures. Not that the picture is better, but the SNR is better. So you end up with just a nicer image that has a ton of data. Why? Those pixels are huge compared to the pixels on, let's say, a full frame or a APS-C, or even worse, a Micro Four Thirds. So what do you think about Sony's new advent here? Do you think that it is groundbreaking? I mean, I think so. And kudos from me to them for doing something that is, once again, innovative instead of iterative. We can do iteration ad nauseum, but we need these companies to be able to do innovative stuff, because we all benefit from that. I would venture to say within about 6 months, we're going to see a similar sensor come out of Canon. We'll see if I'm right or not. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider throwing it a thumbs up. That would be very helpful. Also, subscribe to the channel if you are not, and click this little bell icon over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.